Welcome back to Healthcare Sucks! And you like this nice shirt? It's a nice shirt. Thank you. Anonymous. Anyway, that's the nice things. You know, I just said about shirts. Here's one. With that, let's get right into it. You might like this guy. You might not like this guy. So, in all fairness, whether you do or don't, just listen to what he says. Okay? That's all I'm saying. Just listen to what he's saying.
Every assumption about the future changes. Heads of state die, wars erupt, natural disasters descend, epidemics rage. None of it was in anybody's plan. There's something about human nature that prevents us from preparing for this, for abrupt and radical change. We pretend the unexpected will never happen. But there's something in nature itself that reminds us it inevitably will. It's always a terrifying realization. The rise of the Chinese coronavirus is that kind of moment. The virus is quickly becoming a global pandemic. Ultimately, it could kill millions. At the very least, it will reorder the global economy and change our politics. Could the disease help determine the outcome of our next presidential election 8 months from now? Of course it could. In fact, it will. Our leaders can't stop that. Like all matters of life and death, it is beyond human power to affect. But they can respond to the threat in a way that makes this country stronger, not weaker. How can they do that? Here's how. The first step is to take the virus seriously and to convince the public that you are. In 1918, Woodrow Wilson's White House downplayed the Spanish influenza and refused to take obvious precautions to slow its spread. Wilson had a pointless war in progress in Europe to fight. His generals couldn't be distracted from that goal. So the government continued to ship men to overcrowded army camps across the country and to pack them on ships to France. The virus spread exponentially. In the end, about 53,000 American soldiers were killed in combat in that war. At least 675,000 Americans died of the flu. Could Wilson have prevented that disaster? Well, not entirely. But by early and decisive action, he could have improved America's odds. So what does effective action look like now? Well, we ought to be screening people when they get off the planes from infected countries. That's not complicated, it's obvious. But at the same time, it is hardly a solution. We should be honest about how much we can do to keep the Chinese coronavirus from coming here. 100 years ago, the Spanish flu killed a significant percentage of the population in remote Aleutian Islands, and that was before air travel. Today, the entire world is connected by hourly international flights. Global pandemics are inevitable. There's too much movement to keep viruses isolated. We should acknowledge that. Yes, we can do our best to keep foreign diseases out of this country, but we ought to spend most of our time trying to figure out how to protect Americans once the diseases get here. There's still a lot we don't know.
And we all know this little thermal temperature thing doesn't work. Let me refresh in case you're somebody new tuning in. It can live on surface. The Wuhan 19 is what we call it at Healthcare Sucks. Because we're going to call it where it came from and what it is. We don't tamp it down here. No tamping it down in Healthcare Sucks. Just the stone cold facts, stone cold truth. We call a duck here. The Wuhan 19 came from there. Anyway, beyond that, the low temperature thing does not work. 30 days in a human can be transferred. Some people, even beyond that, they could be like typhoid Marys and not even know, wouldn't see nothing, and bam, all of a sudden everybody around you's got it. That's how this thing works. So up to 30 days, possibly you don't show no effects, but you could have it, you're just traipsing around spreading it. On surfaces, 14 days, guys. Whether they say or not, it's been proven already. 14 days on the surface. Think about that. Think about that when you order something from somewhere overseas. One of my viewers, by the way, if you're watching tonight, very smart person, got a package during all this and said he put it out in the garage and he didn't open it until summer. Smart person. Because you don't want something to jump off of something and get on you. Another thing, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this since I've done advocacy and healthcare stuff and been around the block a few times for the last half my life, at least. This thing's almost you almost cannot prevent this once this gets to the point it's almost there now. Because when I was shopping tonight, I noticed I was going down an aisle. About halfway down, this person coughed a couple times. It's like, holy, whatever. So I turned my buggy around and went the other way. How far did that cough go? 1 aisle over? 2 aisles over? Did it cover that whole aisle? How long was that cough in that aisle? Things to think about. Okay, let's go further from there. That cough, when that person was looking at whatever products were over there, before it was called airborne spitty ones, is what we call them here, but spit basically out, or coughs, or droplets, whatever, could have got on all those products. They're definitely alive for, we say up to 14, definitely alive for a few days. Somebody else goes and gets that can of soup. Touchy. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, now you're getting my drift, guys. This thing almost is unpreventable. I keep getting this question, at what point do you self-quarantine? Only you, people and viewers, can decide that. Personally, I'm damn close. I'm not going to kid around about it. I'm getting prepared. Like I keep putting to you, calling the government. If you watch my video, I'm uploading right now another video. Canada is making preparations to pay people to stay at home. They didn't talk about postponing debt like I told you they need to do, but they're taking the first step. The U.S. needs to postpone debt and make arrangements to pay for people's way to pay things. Period. I'm not kidding. And to have them delivered if you're quarantined. Period. Anything else but that is neglect. I don't care who's president, whatever. And heaven behold for me to come down on the president. But I try to call good where good is, and I said the president's done some good things. Maybe the president before him did some good and bad things. I could sit here and we could talk days on what. But the bottom line is, this is not being handled very well. This is going to come back to bite him. I seriously, again, one more time, see Pence being the fall guy for this, but we'll see. So I've given my 2 cents worth. Let's watch the rest of what Tucker's going to say, because what he's saying is truth. Whether you like him, don't, whether you like Fox or you don't, with the words coming out of his mouth are things that are fact. If we can turn it back
about
on.
The Chinese coronavirus, but 2 things do seem clear. It is highly communicable, and the elderly and people with pre-existing respiratory disease face the greatest threat from it. That means for most Americans, the biggest risks will come not from the virus itself, but from its ancillary effects. People will panic, travel will be disrupted, markets will tumble, and, most critically, hospitals will be overwhelmed. We're about to learn the limits of our healthcare system. Conditions will be tough for the many thousands of Americans looking for beds to recover from the flu. In Seattle, they already are. But things will be even worse for anyone suffering from, say, pancreatitis or a burst appendix, not to mention countless other health emergencies. People like this may not get care at all. Our system won't be able to accommodate them. There are many implications of this, and some of them are political. For example, is this really the time to invite the rest of the world to join Medicare for all? Probably not. That idea was always stupid. Now it's clearly dangerous. On a practical level, saving American medicine from collapse must be our leaders' top priority right now. We need to expand emergency hospital bed capacity. We need to make certain we have enough life-saving drugs and medical equipment, the basics. Unfortunately, that's not as simple as it sounds, or as it should be. Well, the rest of us who are arguing about sexism and transgendered bathrooms, China took control of our healthcare system. China dominates the world market in pharmaceutical ingredients, compounds used in virtually every essential medicine for high blood pressure, for cancer, for Alzheimer's disease, and many more come from China. so do key components in vital medical technology, CT scanners, X-ray machines, ultrasounds. As of tonight, more than 95% of all the antibiotics in America are manufactured in communist China. 95%. Our chief global rival has a total monopoly on the most important medicine in the world. That should worry you more than anything the candidates are currently talking about. Imagine watching one of your children die from an infected cut. China has the power to make that happen. The Chinese government is acutely aware of this power. Last year, a prominent Chinese economist suggested cutting off the supply of antibiotics to the United States as leverage in the trade war. That should have been the biggest story in America. The news media all but ignored it. Why? Because it implicated them and their political party in one of the greatest crimes of our time. 9 years ago, famously brilliant former President Barack Obama did predict a connection between China and the next global pandemic. Unfortunately, Obama got it backward. He claimed China would help us.
I absolutely believe that China's peaceful rise is good for the world, and it's good for America. To the extent that we have a partner in addressing issues like climate change or pandemic.
Our foremost genius. The people in charge have no idea what they're doing, and to the extent they do, they're selling us out on purpose. We should have seen this coming. In recent weeks, you've heard a lot about disruption to our so-called supply chains. Think about what that means. It means that thanks to economic changes that made a small group of business moguls incredibly rich, we no longer make the things we need to survive and prosper as a nation. People who hate us and who seek to displace us make those things. And it's not just medicines and X-ray machines. It's computers and phones and robotics and auto.
Did you catch that part? Whether you're Obama or you're a Trumper or whatever you are, doesn't matter anymore, guys. I'm pushing to the 99%. You and I now surviving this, surviving the next thing to come. The bottom line is, if you ain't a 1%, you're us. We need to get that through our head. It doesn't matter. We're us. And with that, what you just heard was true. They aren't on our team. This is not Team USA that China's on. They're on Team China. And we did sell out America. Not us. The 1% getting rich. And it wasn't enough. They had to get richer. And they had to get richer. And just like in the housing collapse back when Bush was president. The Fannie Mae bull. Taking people's A-level loans, dropping them down to D, E, and F, and making money, and then the big crash. That's how that thing happened. Go back and watch it. It's all over. But the point is the rich is never going to have enough, guys. It's time for us to take it. Now, I mean take it as far as they have theirs, fine. Let them have it. But it's time for us to get our share. Less taxes, benefits when we need them. During this plague that's coming right now, anything and everything we need as American citizens, taxpayers, we are entitled to. Do not kid yourselves. You paid into things, so when stuff happens like this, you will be taken care of. Anything else is neglect, no matter who the president is, no matter which side the president is on. You are entitled. A lot of people don't like that entitled word. It bends people out of shape. Well, do you pay taxes? Then you're entitled to something back. Not just your little measly refund that you get. The big corporations, how much do they get back? Have you ever reviewed that? If you haven't, I can tell you real fast. They don't even put in what they draw out. Yeah, it's bad. So let's tune back in. I just wanted you to, I know this is a terrible thing for some people to have to sit and watch this, but it's the words, guys, that he's saying. The things he's saying is true. That's why if you go back to the videos where I told you they have cities, factory cities, they can retool, and they're not out of masks. They're not out of anything, guys. Maybe the little communities are because China's playing that move. It's like a chest. But they're not out of anything. Trust me. It's going to get much worse. And you weaken an opponent, they become vulnerable and they strike. And I think, honestly, that's what's going on. That the world's being weakened so that forces can strike down the road. Let's hope to God I'm wrong with this. Because this is a very big possibility that this is what is going on and where this is heading. That's why you hear the ships ain't coming back in. And if it's out there on a ship, they're dealing with it. Okay? But here, it's all about stock market. It's all about those bonds, virus bonds that the WHO is running with World Bank and waiting till June to collect off of our blood, sweat, and tears and death. If you don't believe that, watch one of my previous videos. We covered it. So let's watch the last couple minutes. He covers a few more things, and I promise to let you go.
Motive components and machine tools and essential parts for aircraft engines, etc. In fact, apart from fossil fuels, it's almost everything. And now you may have noticed many of our leaders are talking about shutting down our domestic energy sector, the last independent part of the American economy. This is sabotage, and we're about to learn how undermined we've been. At some point, our leaders should be held to account for this. For now, we need to work as if our lives depended on it to fix this problem.
Because it
Global warming
does.
isn't the existential threat we face. Extortion from China is. In very real ways, the Chinese government controls us. There is no greater national security danger than the one they pose. To respond, we need a modern Marshall Plan, one designed to rebuild essential American manufacturing. We should start tomorrow, with medicine and technology to fight the coronavirus, and then with antibiotics. Some will oppose the idea because it poses a threat to arrangements they currently benefit from. But a majority of Americans will welcome it gladly, even in the Congress. Manufacturing lifts every congressional district. It shouldn't be hard to win bipartisan support. No doubt the sages on television will denounce any acknowledgement of China's threat as racism or intolerance. Joe Biden's already done that. Ignore them. The Chinese coronavirus really is Chinese. It arose in that country for the same reason American businesses have sent so many of our jobs there: lax health and safety standards and endemic corruption. China did this to the world, and we should not pretend otherwise. That's not...
There you have it. That's why at Healthcare Sucks, we call a duck, the Wuhan 19C. W19C. Wuhan 19 coronavirus. We're not going to candy code it as some other third name, this, that. We know where it came from. We know what happened. That's my rant on that.
Xenophobia, it's true. The most bitter irony of all of that is that a few years from now, when every last victim of this virus has recovered or been buried, the Chinese government could easily grow stronger because of this disaster and America weaker. China unleashes a pandemic and then overtakes the U.S. as a result? That's too horrible an outcome to contemplate and too dangerous for us. We ought to do everything we can to make certain it does not happen. Well, let's start by accurately describing what is happening. The Chinese coronavirus isn't some fluke of globalization. It is the inevitable byproduct of it. Exotic diseases and the mass disruption they cause are the built-in cost of connectedness, and they always will be. The people who told us there was no downside to living in a borderless world were lying. Make them eat their words. Strip them of their power. Never listen to them again. In fact, and this is still the hardest thing for official Washington to accept, this pandemic vindicates Donald Trump's entire political thesis. On the big things, Trump was right. Trade, immigration, manufacturing, globalization. These are the issues our ruling class assiduously ignores and has ignored for decades in favor of silly, calculated distractions like gender warfare and race politics, things that divide us. Trump, by contrast, ran on the issues that mattered, and he won precisely because the public was tired of being lied to, and he should remember that. The White House reaction to coronavirus so far has been uneven and limp, but it doesn't need to be. The blueprint for an effective response that not only protects this country, but improves it, is right there in the president's 2016 acceptance speech at the Republican convention in Cleveland. Americanism, not globalism, will be the credo, he said. We're going to start building and making things again. All we need to do is start believing in ourselves and our country again. It is time to show the world that America is back, bigger and better and stronger than ever before. There it is. That's the government.
And yes, that is it. No matter what side you're on, guys, if none of us learn anything about the left and the right and all these people, the rich getting richer and all this, wait till you have a loved one that dies from this. Wait till you're sick and you feel like you're dying and you're feeling terrible and there's no medicine because they shipped it over there because we depend on them. And we asked if we sent stuff to help China, if they would help us. Why the world has felt so sorry for poor little China. The people you should feel sorry for. They are neglected and are dying and suffering. But the government and the China itself has got all the supplies they need over there. And they've now sucked up the world's more of it from us. Were we totally idiots? I guess so. Because we gave it away. Now we're suffering. Now we're short. And China has gave us the bird. Now India has gave us the bird on the meds. They're not going to now send antibiotics to us no more. We're done. So, like it or not, America needs to be first. We need to make things in America. There's more jobs. We'll make more money. You'll pay less taxes, which you should be, if things are done here. And with that, whether you vote for this person or that person, I can't tell you. We're not going to go down that trail. But just think about it for a minute. If we had all these things done and we were making it here, we'd be much better off. And with that, I close. Good night. Love you. Stay safe. Don't forget to go out and buy some stuff, because next time you go out, it might not be there. Healthcare sucks. For sure.